Hello to whoever's watching this. My name is Javier, and the problem I chose for my final project was the ICPC 2017 World's Finals Problem E titled Need for Speed. Now, unfortunately, this problem has nothing to do with the video game, but it does have to do with cars. But not street racing. No, the problem is much more uninteresting. You see, the problem has to do with a girl named Sheila. Sheila is your typical broke college student, and she drives a typical broke college student car. Recently, the needle on her speedometer fell off, and as a normal college student with no money would do, she tried to fix the problem herself by simply gluing the needle back on. However, when she glued it back on, the needle, which is supposed to point at 0, now points at a weird angle, and now the speedometer is inaccurate. Thus, when the speedometer reads a certain mile per hour, her actual speed is the speed the speedometer is showing minus what the needle is off by. We'll call that our unknown constant. In order to find said constant, she made a number of tests in segments. In a certain segment, she would travel a certain distance, and the speedometer would read a certain speed for the entire segment. She also recorded the time of each segment and added them up for a total time. So our job is that we need to figure out an equation that can be implemented to solve for the constant and then translate it to C++ so the computer can compute this number for us. Now, I'm no mathematician, so I don't know how to come up with an equation for this. So I just looked up a video to the solution, and what do you know, there's a video on the solution. So I watched it, and this dude had nothing important to say, so the video was useless, but I did get the equation off his whiteboard, so that saved me a lot of work. So here's the equation. All it is time equals the summation of d divided by the given speed plus the constant. The summation, or the sigma symbol, identifies all integers in between the top and the bottom. So right now we have n at the top, which signifies the number of segments, and the bottom I1, which signifies the first segment. This means that for every segment there is, we're going to have a separate CI. So for example, if we were to have 4 segments, we would have 4 CIs. And all we would do for this equation is add all those constants and divide them by the number of segments there are. Doing so will give us our real constant. I just explained that so terribly. So anyway, let's just move on to the code. So here's the code. I first asked for the number of segments, or n, and the time t, which you can see right here. I also set the parameters right here. I set them to negative 10 to the 15th power and the max to positive 10 to the 15th power. I didn't bother with input validation just because. Then I input the given speed and the distance for every segment until the max amount of segments have been inputted. I did that here, and here's where the max would be. Here is where I indicate the max segments. Lastly, here is where the equation is inputted. Print the output using this line. So let's test this out using the question's example input. So I'll run this. That's for the number of segments and the total time. The number of segments was 3, total time was 5. Then we put in our inputs, which was 4, -1, 4 0 and 10 3. Let me enter. Boom, we got the correct output we were supposed to get for the code.